Good afternoon, dear professors, chairman, and members. Let's start the next part of our defense. The first one is Jomara Dokushidamit Kaza, graduate qualification paper is about speaking activities in developing fluency. Who are scientific advisor is Doctor of Philosophy, Mandela.
Good afternoon, dear teachers and students. I'm Jomara Dokush. The theme of my graduation, my qualification work is speaking activities in developing fluency. My scientific advisor, Mameta Dilfazuk Muratpaevna, as speaking activities aimed at developing fluency and the novelty of the work. Teaching speaking involves can be used in the target language. The intensification of the educational process sets the task of students maintain students' interest in the material being studied to intensify their activities throughout the lesson. Educational games are an effective way of solving this problem. The aim of speaking skill activity proposed and for performance we carried out following methods of research, analysis of scientific and pedagogical work, conversation, experiment, supervision. The structure of this work, our regular qualification work consists of introduction to chapters, conclusion, and the list of. In the introduction, we mentioned the aim, the subject, the object, and the actuality, novelty of this paper. The two following chapters, we mentioned theoretical backgrounds and practical peculiarities. Speaking is an interactive process of building, constructing meaning that involves producing, receiving, and processing the information. In speaking activities, there are two reasons. Why speaking activities is difficult for students. First, the cause is the lack of motivation. In learning English, and another reason is in the inappropriate technique used by the teacher in speaking lessons. Speaking by its nature is oral form of communication. According to Cheney and Burke, speaking is the process of building and sharing meaning through the use of verbal and non-verbal symbols in a variety contexts. Further, Burns and Joyce define speaking as an interactive process of constructing meaning that involves producing, receiving, and processing the information. According to Burns and Joyce, the forms and the means of oral communication depend on the participants' context and the proposal speaking. To clarify the meaning, Harmer suggests using vocal using vocal paralinguistic features and physical paralinguistic features. Vocal paralinguistic features is varying voice tone and volume. Physical paralinguistic features is varying is facial expressions, gestures, and the proximity. Uh, from the explanations above, the researchers conclude that speaking is we say to and what we see, think, and feel. Um, uh, there are speaking activities to promote speaking skill. There are numerous activities to do in classroom. Firstly, should answer the question in conversation easily, smoothly, and correctly. Um, it is the main achievement in learning English. To get fluency, it's not simple. It depends on the method and the strategies used by the teacher. Um, there are uh, there are activities used in the classroom in order to develop the students' fluency. For example, the teacher may use discussion activities, debates, discussion activities, as for setting. Uh, as for setting a purpose, teachers usually do this, and so that students don't just waste time. The next one is dialogue. Dialogue is a basic form of oral communication in language learning. A dialogue is used for practicing language functions such as greetings, thanking, offering help, asking for attention, showing attention, or asking information. The next one is surveys. This technique will be more useful, and if the student plan questionnaire, then tell us. It is recommended that the survey should be better built around the topic. And the next one is role play. Role play is one of the most common speaking class activities. In the role play, the teacher gives a setting to students and the students perform their characters. Uh, the procedure of teaching speaking in class is divided into three terms: pre-activities, while activities, and the post-activities. Uh, in conclusion, communication knowledge is indeed indispensable for effective communication. In order to speak fluently, the student should have a strong vocabulary and a strong vocabulary and strong grammatical knowledge.
Thank you for your presentation. And in your second chapter, you are given 4 interconnected activities: planning, action, observation, and reflection. Yeah? Can you describe this activity? How we can use this activity in one lesson and the result of this activity? Can this activity help develop our speaking skills?
Yes, in this class, I use the role play activity for the students, and result of the activity. Uh, the result of the activity, the students correct their mistakes in pronunciation.
This one is a planning, action, observation, and reflection here before interconnected activities.
Mhm.
How we can use this activity?
Before this activity, uh, before this activity, mm, in order to know their level and knowledge in speaking, there are protesting, and in this protest was distributed before cycle one.
In your paper, you here is written that you carried a series of tests in the teaching process to assess the student's speaking ability. By what criteria do you assess or to give marks to the students?
Uh,
What criteria?
Firstly, I will check their pronunciation.
You wrote another thing. The first written grammar, the
Grammar,
second
vocabulary.
fluency, and the third is comprehension, understanding of the language. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, what types of information gap activities do you, or do you know
Information gap.
activities, what types? It's written here.
Uh,
It's type of activity.
Information gap.
mm, information gap.
Yes.
For example, draw pictures, describe this drawing picture. Then we may use puzzles and um,
Thank you.
Next on the great student is Rajabha. Your scientific work is about effective strategies of improving reading comprehension and scientific advisory in mathematical design.
Good afternoon, dear students and teachers. My name is Mukhida. Support of 403. My scientific advisor, Ndikuza. My qualification work is seen as the best strategies for improving reading comprehension skills. Qualification work is for a language, and for a language about strategies useful for improving reading comprehension skills. Comprehension is an important aspect of reading. When you read, strict understanding, extract meaningful, better overall awareness of what you are reading. By learning and implementing reading strategies, the best learning strategies, and change how you read, you can improve your reading comprehension abilities and make your reading more easier and more enjoyable. And this publication work will explore what the reading comprehension used while text comprehension is like using this language to develop an awareness of develop an awareness, learn uh, new skills and information, being able to understand, analyze, respond to documents, and greater communication in the workplace. Improve your ability to write, increase invested in text. It can also broaden your overall understanding of what you are writing by enabling you to even you don't know any words or phrases, the vocabulary words and phrases that look for the main idea. Identify the main idea of the paragraph or article can help you determine the importance of article. Understanding what you are reading is important because it given way. When you read, try to put your own words in the for further understanding. Write a summary of what you read. It is the best way to increase what you have read. Summarizing allows to determine if you truly understand what you are reading and better remember what you know. What do you know? And in the long term, break up the reading strategies because the text is if you are reading longer and the more challenging text, consider break it up smaller sections because as you learn an idea of the text and you have understand all the text and the vocabulary being used. Includes include some activities, true, false, not given activities, asking questions, vocabulary uh, based on this information, and etc. So, um, action research. Um, um, in our experiment and the pedagogical work will the students and pupils comprehension in the reading will will we will take some and jigsaw our pedagogical work. Yes.
Questions? Can you tell me about your process of collecting data? What kind of way have you held your experiment in order to find out the effective strategies for improving reading comprehension?
Our experiment in pedagogical work will collect as different age peoples and they are collected in your level.
Experiment. classroom observation method.
Classroom observation. Classroom observation is
Thank you. More questions, please.
In your paper, you is written that you organized, you designed some test questions for different level of students. So with that, not the choice, not the choice test. What
so
are the,
reading.
thank you. Choice test. What are the techniques for reading tasks?
Asking questions.
Asking
Asking questions. Filling gaps.
Yes. Yeah. Also, retelling.
Returns.
Thank you.
Next, we will be student. So, survival practitioners. Qualifications is about storytelling as a tool of improving the reading comprehension in the primary classroom. Scientific advisories.
Classmates, dear teachers and students, and my name is Survivor Khadija. Group number is 403. My graduation work is about storytelling as a tool for improving introduction to chapters, conclusion, and a list of literature. The actuality of the topic, language is an essential form of communication. It allows people to convey and elaborate their perspectives, and the role of language in society is very important. In society and the language are connected with each other because the society cannot exist without the familiarize EFL teachers and the learners with the effectiveness of two basic parts. The theoretical part describes the scholar's view on using literature, stories, and the storytelling in teaching situation, and the practical part gives detailed results of data collection taken from pedagogical teachers and the learners on the program. And grammar, as well as the macro skills like listening, reading, writing, and the speaking. Stories include languages in oral form on their own, and short stories can be used with all levels and with all ages and self-confidence. There are some activities of working in this. Firstly, the result of this first phase are they the students are passive and afraid of making mistakes because there are over 20 pupils in one class in each class, so students have little chance to practice English. So as there is the lack of time and then the topics are not interesting because the current English teaching materials in our country focus on the situational and not interesting for students. uh, reading and worked with the story, mentioned questions. Students showed how they liked the lesson, how well they motivated, what tasks made them work more, how they found out their lack of vocabulary, and how this lesson made them think of the improve of their English. As a result, the aim of the study was to find out whether teachers use stories in English teaching and the opinions about stories. Mostly, teachers don't use the short stories in their lessons because it takes more time. More time. Mm, but a short story, short using short stories can help students to develop their skills like all skills, reading, listening, and also writing and speaking skills. Mm. Also, this and analyze and challenge of English classes came to the conclusion that it's a high time to bring something interesting and motivating to our English classes, and any teacher should think of creating things close to their learners and their interests and levels.
What kind of stories have you investigated or analyzed in order to choose this kind of?
So legends about
In
Navajo.
order to improve critical comprehension, right? But that is short stories. In primary school children. Kind of stories.
A legend
example.
about Navajo. We have story and we have some. Firstly, we know short stories, and then we have this story and give some questions. How do you ask questions the plot of story? And so you like it, the story?
While choosing the story, have you made any criteria for choosing stories? What do you take into consideration while choosing stories for primary school children?
Level.
Level, yes.
And their age also.
Okay.
Age and interests.
Interests.
Yes. Yes.
And what kind exactly the stories can you?
Name of the story.
Yes, that you have chosen.
This story, one story.
Just one story?
Yes. The legend about
How many activities you have designed?
two activities. First one is chain activity. Chain activities that students retell the story.
Yeah,
And this text.
testing.
Yes.
That's all. Thank you. Any other questions?
The next evaluate student is Blue White Grade. Scientific work is about shortened words, minor types of lexical composition. Scientific advisor is candidate of pedagogical sciences, who is working in environment.
Good afternoon, dear teachers. My name is Kilbala Graham from 403 group. Our qualification work is about shortened words, minor types of lexical oppositions. First of all, let me introduce the whole structure of our today's work. Firstly, actuality of our work is caused numerous notions, and we seem to say that shortened words is the main trend in English, in modern English, and also developing branch in lexicology. And English is namely in its colorful layer. We can say without any exaggeration, shortening of words is supported by latest informational technologies, and also which is the best way to simplify of our spoken alive language. First of all, the significance of our work is dedicated to the latest information technologies. For example, PC, personal computers, and in addition to that, we are familiar with numerous words. The most outstanding one is Wi-Fi, wireless fidelity. And the general goal of our work is dedicated to study, analyze, and sum up all possible changes happened in the last 50 years. Also, to teach the young learners in terms of shortening words. And this practical significance of our work is which can serve as a good source at schools, lyceums, colleges, and higher educations. In addition to that, scientists could find a lot of valuable information in terms of their science field. Next one, the novelty of our work is all rules of shortening words are exemplified in one and two chapters, and this is a novelty of work is introduction, chapter 1, 2, and the conclusion. The development of teaching foreign languages, the quality of teaching foreign languages. Apart from that, the meaning of new shortened words and the vocabulary development. And we might be asked what kind of reasons related to shortened words. And the most outstanding one is nowadays we are familiar with can relate these shortened words, latest comparison, and the conclusions are drawn, which includes 31 theoretical sources. The first one is shortening of spoken words, and this is a type of word building process, and also which is called clipping or curtailment. And its development goes back to 15th century, and in 20th century in market in many European countries. And take for example, we are familiar with numerous words. The most outstanding one is doctor, examination. And also there are proper names, Becky, Rebecca, Frisco, San Francisco, and so on. Next one is general definition of homonyms. We are actually meaning, but they are identical in terms of their sound and the spelling. This shortening of words, which includes not only qualitative but also quantitative action and acronyms. Graphical abbreviation, which is used in written languages, and acronyms are used in spoken languages. Acronyms, this is a process of word building, which includes we might be taken the first letters of words and in order to create a new word. For example, UNESCO, UNO, NATO, BBC, British Broadcasting Corporations, North Atlantic Treaty Organizations, and they are really popular and prominent in the world. Secondary ways of building sound interchange and sound imitation. Sound interchange, which means sounds are changed in order to create a new word. For example, life to live, blood to bleed, and sound imitation, which includes the human voices, the voice of nature. In addition to that, the voice of animals. For example, the clock voice, tick tack, and the voice of humans, whisper, giggle, and so on. Next one is blending of word. This is a process of word building, which includes we click the end of the first component and the second, we click the first part of second component. For example, medical care, which is a whole part of the word,